I read about an interesting study lately. They looked at people pulling out of parking spaces in large parking lots, and they looked at them under two different scenarios. The first scenario, when they were pulling out and somebody was waiting for the space. The other scenario, when they were pulling out and nobody was waiting for the space. And they found that people took significantly longer when somebody was waiting for the space compared to when nobody was waiting for the space. And the psychologist who ran the study suggested this was due to our ancient evolutionary instincts, namely our sense of territoriality, because all mammals are territorial. We need to protect our territory so we can protect our source of food. Otherwise, we'll go extinct. And this is expressed in a lot of ways today. And because we were very, very hierarchical, like all other groups of mammals, we kind of flex our territory both physically or literally and metaphorically. Metaphorically, when we're trying to flex our status kind of feels like our own kind of status territory. Because in the ancient world, where you were in the hierarchy had a huge impact on the quality of your life. They believed that ancient humans lived in a very tight Pareto distribution, the 80-20 rule, where the top 20% of males had 80% of the sex. And this is something you can see on social media today, or on online dating today. And so your prime directive as a human back in those days was to get as high as up in the hierarchy as you possibly could. And you did this by demonstrating your status, by flexing your status. And these feelings are still within us. And because this is an instinct, it feels very good to do this. It feels very good to flex your status. Because every time we express an instinct, it feels good. Otherwise, we wouldn't do it. That's why we do this. That's why we obey our instincts. It feels good to eat. It feels good to have sex. It feels good to fall in love. It feels good to be around people who have your back and who trust you and who like you. It feels good to flex our status. And if you look at basic conversations today, this is what we're doing all the time. If you kind of go meta during a conversation you're having or watching, you can see that conversations are really kind of an idea contest. What about this idea? Yeah, but what about this idea? Yeah, but what about this idea? These are low-key opinion flex contests, which is perfectly fine. If there's a problem that needs to be solved, having a flex contest is the great way to find the solution. Everybody's throwing out their potential solution in the mix, and the best one will win the flex contest, and that will solve the problem, and that will benefit everybody. So these low-key conversational flex contests are perfect, are normal, are wonderful thing. They're part of who we are. The only time you can get into trouble by not understanding and not being able to manage your flex instinct is whenever you're trying to persuade somebody. Because think of it like Newton's second law, or Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But when you flex on somebody conversationally, subconsciously usually, for every opinion flex, there's an equal and opposite opinion flex. And when you're having a persuasive conversation, this is the last thing you want to do. But there is a much easier way to persuade people, to get people to go along with your ideas, or to even seduce people and sell things to people. And that is to first turn off your flex instinct. How do you do this? Well, think of this metaphorically, like you have a bunch of ideas in your head. They have a bunch of ideas in their head. And your goal is to get the ideas out of their head and keep your ideas inside your head. Refrain from telling them about your ideas. Refrain from telling them your opinions. Refrain from giving them any judgment, positive or negative, on their opinions. Just keep your ideas inside your head and bring out their ideas. What specific ideas do you bring out? This is where it gets very, very powerful and very, very non-intuitive. We kind of tend to think that if you want to persuade somebody to do something, we need to give them reasons. We need to give them logical reasons. We need to tell them about our experiences. But this is a function of our flex instinct and not an actual strategy that works. Instead, forget about the surface structure content and target the deeper emotions. Because when we do decide to do things, we don't do them for logical reasons. The way psychologists explain this is first we have this feeling, this unconscious feeling, this unconscious desire to do something. We take action, and then after we take action, then we come up with a rational reason as to why we thought we took action. But those rational reasons are not the real reason. The real reason are these deep feelings of desire. And you can elicit these conversationally without needing to talk about the surface level stuff. And it's very, very powerful. It's very, very effective. So what kind of questions do you ask? This is when you can leverage their desire to flex. Ask them about something that happened recently in the past 6 months or so that went really well. What was something that happened to you in the past 6 months that went really well? And here's the thing. Whenever we remember something, we don't access it on our internal hard drive like your computer. We actually recreate the memory. And when we recreate that memory, we get all those feelings that we had back then, but we feel those feelings right now. We can only ever feel things right now. And when we're feeling those feelings right now, we'll want to do the same things we did back then. But here's another trick. Whenever we remember something good that happened, we'll tend to rewrite that memory to put ourselves in a more central role of that situation. We'll put ourselves as the author of that situation, of the person who decided to do that thing, who created that situation. That validates our ego, that validates our flex instinct. So when you ask somebody, tell me about something that happened, or what was something that happened to you in the past 6 months that went really well, they will explain it, but they will explain it in terms of them making that happen rather than it just kind of randomly happening, which is generally what happens anyway. But they won't remember it that way. They'll remember it as them being in charge of the situation, which will entice them to flex like crazy about what a fantastic decision maker they are. They won't say that. They won't say, I'm a fantastic decision maker. But that will kind of be the flavor of the conversation. And so ask them questions that presuppose they were the author of that situation rather than that situation just randomly happening to them. And that will help them to flex. What did you do to make that happen? How did you know that would be such a good decision? How did you know you would overcome the obstacles that would get you to the other side of that and have success? How did you know that you would be able to go through that without any problems? And they will tell you about their active process, their agency within that process, their proactive actions and thoughts and behaviors during that process, and that will help them flex like crazy. And they will create that very, very powerful energy that says, I make good decisions. I do things. I do things successfully. I make the right decisions. Another question you can ask if you're trying to sell them something is, when was the last time you bought something and it turned out to be a really, really good decision? And that same thing will happen. They'll rewrite the memory, so they'll put themselves as the author of that situation. How did you know right before the purchase decision that it was going to work out? And they'll tell you, and they'll flex like crazy. Because we love to buy things, and that will create another powerful subconscious energy. The energy that we feel right before we buy something. Because right before you buy something, you feel really, really good. I mean, just imagine when you bought this device that you're watching this video on right now. How did that feel when you bought that? How did you feel when you decided to get this? How did you feel right when you decided to use this for the first time? Because ultimately, we love to buy things. That's why we like money so much. We like to get money so we can buy stuff, because we love to buy stuff. We love to buy stuff. So when you ask them about a past buying decision that worked really well, they'll come up with something, and that will put them in the mind frame of, I'm about to do something really good. I'm about to buy something really good. And that's the energy you want. That's the energy that creates a decision. And so when you get them fired up in this kind of mindset, when they have fired up and enhanced this pre-decision energy, this pre-purchase energy, and they're feeling really good, all you'll need to do is just kind of put the decision in front of them. Just say, hey, what do you think? What about this? And take on a kind of subordinate role. And just say, what do you think about this, kind sir? You don't have to say kind sir, but kind of put yourself in a subordinate role and just put the decision in front of them and let them see this through this internal frame that you've created of a very good buying decision or a very good decision. This is very, very powerful. Try this out with your friends. Just play around with this with your friends without really saying what you're doing. Just ask them, What was something really good that happened to you in the last 6 months? And then ask questions that presuppose they were in the authorship position of that decision. They were the director of that decision. And watch how big and bright their face gets when they explain what a powerful decision maker they are. This is a fantastic persuasive technique. It's very subtle. It's very counterintuitive, but it works really, really well. So try it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you'd like to learn more about how you can improve your persuasion skills, check out the links below. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.